Photograph the car body parts list. Fixing body issues is difficult because they give you a list of things to fix, but there's no way of marking which is which, nor method for ticking them off as you go. You can just take everything off and use the body repair table, but even then, you need to have unlocked it, and you need the Renovator 6 skill before you can use it. If you photograph the list, you can have it in hand while you visit the body shop. I don't know if this was a modern update or just something I didn't notice before, but the vehicles on my property are the first ones on the list. Go down the list on your phone and pick out the ones that you need. It's easier than trying to do it by memory, especially when you remember that some of the parts have more than one variant. You can drain several parts in one session. I didn't know that when you select the draining tool, it stays in your hand after each use. I thought you had to select each part, select the draining tool, drain it, focus on the next part, select the draining tool again, repeat, and so on. Now I know that I keep my draining tool in my hand, the fluid replacement objectives have become a lot less painful. Also, when you drain fluids, you don't need to hold the button. Once that green circle fills, it will auto-drain all of the fluid. You can stop pouring when the bottle tilts backwards, as you just saw there. This means you've added enough fluid to mark it off of your to-do list. It doesn't look full when the bottle tilts backwards, but the game considers it completed. Continuing to pour won't cost you any extra, it's just unnecessary. Aim for the second to last mark on the repair table. This mark here is where you should aim on setups like these. This one here or this one here, depending on which is green. It gives you the biggest margin for error and, as you can see, is working pretty well in these examples. There are times when there will be no green marks near the edges, but for the most part, as you can see, aim for the second to last marker and you will hit more often than you will miss. The undiscovered part is a bushing. If you are a veteran player, then you're probably going to agree with this, in that when there's an undiscovered part and you have examined and you've ran all the tests, that it's usually a sneakily hidden bushing. Before you tear your car to pieces, like I have done here, check the rubber bushing pieces because they are usually the problem that you're searching for. The battery charger repairs batteries for free. My test here shows that the battery is at 1% charge. I take it out and I put it in my battery charging machine. Once I receive it, you can see there, it is at 100% and there was no monetary credit charge for that service. The battery charging station only costs 550 credits, so it pays for itself in savings pretty quickly. It also increases the value of the battery. Prior to charging, this battery is at 67% and it sells for 57 credits. Once it's fully charged, its value rises to 85 credits. The same is true of the brake lathe. It creates a brand new brake disc so long as the original piece is at 15% durability or higher. The welder works on the vehicle frame. You may wonder what the welder does, especially when you use it and nothing seems to happen. Well, besides a few sparks. Here is what it does. I have stripped all the bodywork off of this car so that only the innards remain. Now, when I use the welder, you can see it fixing up the frame. I mentioned this later in the video because if you are buying cars just to fix them up, then this is a fairly valuable function. A quick explanation of tire sizes. The code at the end is the size of the rim, so if the code ends with R21, you need a 21-inch rim. Let's add this tire to the shopping list using the button down here. Go to the shop, enter the tire shop, bring up the shopping list, press the search button to find the tire. Start with the size, which is the same as the rim size. In this case, it's 21. Then plug the other numbers in, which in my case is 275 and 45. If you forgot the numbers, then come out of the buy screen and bring up your shopping list. Or do what I do and take a photo of the car information screen, so you have the codes to hand. Just to show it again, here is how the numbers translate from the car information screen to the shop. How to avoid back tire, front tire mismatches. When you start to work on a new car, check the car information tab to see if there's more than one code for the factory tire size. If there is, then the code on the left is the front tires and the code on the right are the back tires. Here I'm going to put on the front tire, but I have a choice between the one starting with 245 and the one starting with 225. So I go to car status and the first code are the front tires, so I add those. If you don't want to mess about with codes, then make a point of working on the front tires, completing that part of the job, and then doing the back tires. In short, you don't take off the back tires until the front tires are safely back where they belong. Put your spare parts into a fixer-upper. When you get later in the game, consider visiting the junkyard and buying an old heap, something that is cheap and nasty. As a side note, while you are there, buy a very cheap set of chairs and maybe a steering wheel. It comes in handy later. As you complete your various jobs and story missions, take the broken and nasty parts that you are going to scrap or sell and put them into your junker car. You can fix them up with the repair table if you wish, but it's not necessary. Even though you are adding damaged or broken parts into your junker car, you are still increasing its sale price by a disproportionate amount. This gives you the best value for money when you sell the car. Also, throw in the car seats and steering wheel to plump up the sale price even more. Now, in this example, let's say that you've bought a broken car. You can take off the various body parts, repair them, and then put them back. But it's far easier and still very profitable if you remove absolutely everything from the body, sell those nasty pieces, and then go to the body shop and buy every piece they have. Now, as you can see, I add all of the parts into the car, which is very easy because I don't have to worry about what goes where. And now, take a look at how much profit I make on this car. That's a hefty profit for doing little more than changing the bodywork. How does tuning work in Car Mechanic Simulator 2021? The story description asks to increase tuning by 10 to 15%. For body tuning, you go to this shop, but we need car tuning, so we go to the tune-up shop. Here there are two types of tuning, blue for brakes and red for vehicle. We need 10 to 15% tuning for this mission, so we have all these red ones to choose from. Beforehand, I added a few things to my shopping list that I thought may be useful, and I go through the list buying the parts I want. I added exhaust-related and engine-related stuff to my shopping list, as I figured they were more likely to appear in the tune-up shop. After adding those parts, I fall painfully short of the 10%, so it's time to take action. Either I buy some more tuned-up material and I add it into the vehicle, or I take what I have already installed and I improve their performance. I uninstall the parts and I go to the salvage bay, and here these are the same items that you saw me buy earlier. I'm going to quickly upgrade them with scrap. See how their percentages rise as I upgrade. This should now be more than enough to pass the mission. Back to the dyno test, and there we go. That is more than 10%, so I can complete this mission. Play on normal difficulty. It is the only difficulty setting that feels conducive to the intended feel of the game. The other modes turn the simulation into a breeze or into a guessing game. Also, examining everything in order to gain experience is not a game hack or even a game cheat. You will gain experience naturally through completing the cause and story missions, and much of the game forces you to use the examination skill anyway. Plus, once you unlock tools, run them and you will rack up experience with very little effort at all. Look at all that from just one tool. Don't put it back together until you have discovered all the parts. You can see on the Issues to Fix page that there's a nice list to tick off one by one, which leads some people to start fixing the car before all of the undiscovered parts are found. On many occasions, the undiscovered parts are linked to other damaged items on the car, which makes sense if you think about it. Take the car apart and keep searching until you find all of the required issues. If you start putting the car together again before you have found all of the undiscovered parts, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Have at least 30k before visiting a barn. You get maps to barns from loot boxes, which you receive at the end of story quests. If you are at a high enough level, you can visit each barn only once, and each barn has its own loot box for you to find. Here I have 6 barn locations starred up. I add in these 2 maps, and now I have 8 barn locations unlocked. You need at least 30,000 credits per visit so that you can buy stuff, and so that you can buy the cars you find, though there are some cars that are worth even more. I was going to make a tip called Leveling Up with Barn Maps, but I will give it you here. I needed to level up quickly so that I could power through the game and explore every element before making this video. I have to be thorough, which is tricky when this game demands so many hours to complete. It's a very slow-moving game. The fastest way I leveled up was I had gathered together quite a few barn maps, and I started visiting them one by one, finding the loot box and then using it. The thing is, quite often, the loot box gave me another loot box. It gave me another barn map, and quite often it gave me free experience. For a while, I was able to cycle through this loot box, barn map, free experience cycle for nearly an hour before I was forced to take on another story mission because I had run out of loot boxes and barn maps, during which time, thanks to a splattering of luck, I had leveled up fairly well. Take damaged parts to the salvage container. Here is where you buy the salvage container. You go over here and you play this mini game to gain salvage that you can use to make more valuable performance parts. It won't scrap your most valuable parts. For example, here I have a damaged engine head and here's a brand new one that I bought. However, the new one doesn't appear in the salvage minigame. Also, you get between 1 and 3 pieces of scrap. You get this no matter what type of broken item you choose to salvage. So if you want a quick and easy way to salvage your stuff, you can use the bulk salvage tool and scrap all of your broken stuff in one simple action. The performance tab is at the top right up here. Choose the piece you want to upgrade and you can upgrade it up to 3 times. Mark items to find them more easily. I'm having trouble finding the belt tensioner up there at the top part of the list, so I press the button to mark that piece. I focus on a part and over there on the left is a blue outline. It is inside the timing cover. The crankshaft pull is highlighted in red, so I have to remove that first. But I can't. I need to remove the serpentine belt first. I can't do that because the idle roller is red. So I remove that, and now I can start removing the pieces in order, one by one, until off comes the timing cover, and there is the belt tensioner that was highlighted in blue. If you want, you can mark up all of the pieces you want to highlight. It's especially handy when you're dealing with a highly damaged car, where it's tricky to see what the client wants fixing. Go through your inventory and add what you need to the shopping list using this button here. Also, there is a search button down there. It will take you directly to the piece you need, saving you having to search manually. Use the sort function when compiling your shopping list. When you have removed all of the parts you need to repair or purchase, open up your inventory and sort your items from worst condition to best condition. In most cases, it's the really broken stuff that needs replacing. Adding stuff to your shopping list this way just makes it a little easier and more convenient. Also, when you are moving a car, check at the bottom here and it will tell you which button to hold so that you do not transport with the car. This is handy if you have several cars that you like to switch between. The tablet is a big time saver. Buy the tablet and you can do this. You enter part mount mode and it shows you an outline of which parts can be placed next. If you find yourself missing a part, you can hover over the white outline, mark it on your shopping list using this function, and then use your tablet to go over and buy it from where you stand. Then, without moving, you can mount the new piece right there in a very convenient and efficient manner. Hold the button constantly to spin nuts. When you are unscrewing or screwing a series of nuts, just keep your finger on the button. You don't need to stop for every nut. I don't know if this is true for PC, because I keep seeing people pressing the nuts with the mouse, whereas for console, you just hold down the button and it screws automatically. Also, when you blast it with oil, you need only press the button. You don't need to press and hold. Just press the button and that is all. Don't forget you can look through stuff. If you are struggling to hunt down that final broken piece, don't forget you can look through stuff, as I do here.
It's broken!
It also works for dismantling and fixing, such as here. It is difficult to pinpoint smaller pieces, especially if your controller is as broken as mine and has a left-hand drift. But if I go inside of the engine, I can see and easily pull out the spark plugs with no bother. Quality of life tips. When you are putting a car tyre back on, place your pointer in the very middle. Instead of moving the pointer, move the camera angle. All I'm doing here, on console, is using the left analog button to shift the camera angle left and right, all while keeping the pointer in the middle. It's far quicker than trying to move, point and aim. Step backwards out of assemble mode. This was going to be a tip all of its own because I can't believe I made this mistake for so long. Here I am in interior assemble mode. Rather than coming out of the mode via the pie chart, I can just step backwards for longer than 2 seconds, and I'm back in normal mode. It's so much easier and convenient. A similar thing is true for bodywork assemble. Just step backwards for more than a moment, and it takes you out of assemble mode. The parts for the 2009 Royal Town. I only mention this because it's a story mission where I was so stuck I had to look online for the answer. Usually it's a rubber bushing that is damaged, but I really couldn't figure out what was wrong in this case. If you are also struggling with this mission, here are the things you need to look for. FMW Panther Mk1 front bumper B. The game asks me to replace the FMW Panther Mk1 front bumper B, but I used the shopping list, went into the body shop, and all I could find was the regular Mk1 front bumper there on the left. I check back in the body shop, and all they have is the regular one. What you need to do is go to body tuning, and in there you will find the alternatives to some of the more standard body parts. How to Make Quick and Easy Money in Car Mechanic Simulator 2021. There are so many tips videos on YouTube covering how to make easy money in this game that I had to include at least one of my own, and this is it. Go buy a super cheap car from the junkyard, bring it back to your garage. This car is worth $8,502 and somehow already has a profit of $933. I run it through the Welder and the price has rocketed up to $12,054, which is over 3,500 credits of profit at least. Then I run it through the interior washer, which is free, and the external washer, which is also free, and it brings the final sale price to 13,052 credits, and I haven't even added or fixed up any parts. With that in mind, don't be afraid to put new parts into a car that you're going to sell. It always creates profit. For example, this car is worth 7,601 credits. I buy an engine block for 2,900 credits, I install the brand new engine block, and then when I check the sell value, it's gone up from 7,601 to 11,951. That is an increase of 4,350, and the engine block only costs 2,900. Adding parts to a car that you're going to sell will always draw a profit, even if you're adding new parts. There are no real exploits. I endeavour to keep exploits out of my tips videos because they make it so that I get less gameplay out of the game that I spent my hard-earned cash on. And yeah, sure, sometimes my tips brush up against something a little like an exploit, but I would hardly call them game-breaking. Yet, for this game, I couldn't find any exploits. I tried the one where you remove the tyres and then you replace them with very cheap ones, but the selling prices really didn't work. I also tried swapping good parts for bad parts, but that didn't work too. The only one that is close to an exploit is if you buy license plates using your discount and then sell them back at full price. Here I have 11,113 credits. I buy 2 batches of 50 plates there for a total of 100 plates. I only have the 5% discount. I sell them at full price, and now I have 11,613 credits, a profit of 500 credits, which really isn't worth it considering how long the process takes. I sped up the footage there, but it takes quite a while. I suppose at a higher discount level it may be slightly more worth the effort, but at that point in the game you probably won't be aching for cash. So it's a pretty weak exploit all told. Seems that this game doesn't really have any genuine exploits. Anyway, do like and subscribe, it helps out a lot. Also, there's a link to the Buy Me a Coffee if you're feeling generous, and there's also the YouTube thank you function.